Well, hello there, friends, lovers, and thank you for joining us. This is 5 Minutes with Robert and Amy Nasir on this fine January 26th, and I am Robert Nasir.
I'm Amy Nasir.
And you know who you are, and if you are listening live, you are right where you ought to be. If you're catching us after the fact, that's cool too, as we are on every podcast platform from here to Mars.
We are.
Well, because there aren't any on Mars yet. Thank you for joining us on this fine January 26th. And I've got to bring up my page here that says January 26th. I don't know why it's not in my show notes. January 26th is the 26th day of the year. I could not have figured that one out. Well, the hard part is that there are 339 days left. 339 days remaining in this fine year to make this your best year yet. We're going to talk about a few ways to make it your best year yet. Christmas is in just 333 days. 333. 3, it's a magic number. Do you guys remember Schoolhouse Rock? Wasn't that the best? Everything I know about history I learned from Schoolhouse Rock. Everything I know about the Constitution is probably more than our current president knows I learned from Schoolhouse Rock. Halloween is in 278 days. Valentine's Day, if you're thinking about that, already in 19 days. Well, Valentine's Day kind of makes sense because we spent the afternoon hanging with Kirk Barbera. Well, online in a Zoom meeting, but talking about the Romantic Manifesto. And, you know, the current edition of the paperback anyway is in pink. Look at that. Doesn't that look like a Valentine's book?
Here it is.
Here, put that on the camera so folks can see.
It's gorgeous.
Yeah, we're going to get into that in just a bit. But yes, if you're going to be celebrating Valentine's Day, you've got 19 days to put that together, if you haven't already. I'm going to jump right to on this date, January 26, 1838. 1838, just 52 years after the American Revolution, Tennessee, the state of Tennessee passes the first U.S. law limiting alcohol sales. This is way before Prohibition. Like, these are frontier days. Why would there be people, temperance societies, pushing for abstinence from alcohol? But sure enough, they did.
What year was this?
This is the very first law limiting alcohol in the United States, 1838. It didn't last. It didn't last that long. In fact, in 1866, Jasper Daniel, better known as Jack Daniel, registered his distillery in Tennessee. The Lynchburg, Tennessee-based Jack Daniels Distillery remains the oldest registered distillery in the United States. Folks, if you know me, you know I don't drink much. Amy, you don't drink a lot either. You drink more than I do, but that's not saying much.
I drink a lot more than Robert. Now,
yeah, which is like, she will have 2 drinks if I ever have one. So, just to give you an idea. But the idea of prohibition is insanity. And yeah, it eventually got rolled back, and the Jack Daniels Distillery, the oldest distillery in the United States, was able to open in that same state of Tennessee. But then, like, sure enough, the early when was Prohibition? 1920? I forget. Early 1900s. Yeah, it wasn't just a law was passed no, it was constitutional amendment. And you can't get rid of constitutional amendments, so they had to pass another constitutional amendment to get rid of it. But it was on this date in 1838 that first law passed. Roll all the way forward to 1950. We've got listeners in India. We respect you enormously. And this is a celebration for you. This is the day in 1950 that India became a republic. The Dominion of India was established 3-4 years before that, starting the breakaway from English rule. But yeah, this was the day India became a republic. Roll way forward to 2005. This is the day Condoleezza Rice was sworn in as Secretary of State, making her the highest-ranking African-American woman ever to serve in the presidential cabinet. Now, I mention that for a few reasons, and this will connect to our theme today. Condoleezza Rice was awesome. She was wicked smart. If you ever heard any of her interviews, she was an accomplished pianist.
Yeah, I was going to say, she played piano, yeah.
She trained to be a concert-level pianist, and she never became a concert pianist, but she was that good. And yes, she was an African-American woman, which, in 2005, she probably didn't face as many hardships as folks did decades and decades ago, say back when whiskey was hard to get in Tennessee, but I think it's great. I think it's great that it was under George Bush. Not that I'm a big fan of W, but that it was in a Republican administration. Very, very cool. And I would take, again, Condoleezza Rice in a heartbeat, not just over anybody being brought up, or, they're currently going through the process of putting together the presidential cabinet. Hell, I'd take her as president over the current president. So, yes, that, a great day. Finally, well, not finally, but today is National Spouse Day.
Oh.
I don't know.
Well, congratulations, spouse.
Yeah, you got to make sure you do something special for your spouse on this day. The link to the article that I looked that up on is in the show notes. As always, on the YouTube description, on the Facebook description, you can find those links. And they say, for example, make sure to do something thoughtful for your spouse on this day, whether it's writing them a note. I mean, doesn't everybody do that, like in Messenger, WhatsApp, whatever? Or making them a cup of coffee. Well, I made my own coffee today. And I mentioned that because my dear spouse, actually, I was a little bit of pampering for her because she was a little under the weather this morning, but you bounced back.
I'm kind of bounced back, but I'm just a little bit out of it.
And the recovery was largely owing to that same book you just showed off.
Yes.
So a huge shout out to Kirk Barbera. I put links in the show notes. Kirk Barbera, the troubadour Kirk Barbera, is running Sunday afternoon sessions on this book, The Romantic Manifesto.
Yeah, you can look him up on Facebook or on his website.
Yep. And you'll find the links in the show notes.
So Kirk, that's with K-I-R-K, as in Captain Kirk.
As in Captain Kirk.
Yeah.
And Barbera as in like rhubarb Barbara.
Or Hanna-Barbera.
Yeah, like that.
And the Yogi Bear.
Yeah, there's a link to his YouTube channel in the description, but you'll also see a link to troubadour.studio, and that's where you can see the list of those sessions coming up on the Romantic Manifesto. Interesting discussion this afternoon on Chapter 1 of that book. Okay, we'll get back to that.
Yeah, we'll get back to that.
A couple happy birthdays real quick. It's Paul Newman's birthday. Well, we lost him in 2008. My favorite Paul Newman film remains The Sting. But I was wondering if I should see Cool Hand Luke, because it's brought up in one of our other favorite films, Serendipity. Tell me in the show notes, do you have any thoughts on Paul Newman films that are must-sees, or at least recommended sees? On this, the birth date of Paul Newman, another one who's no longer with us, but it is the birth date of Eddie Van Halen. So by all means, put on that first Van Halen album. Okay, whichever one is your favorite Van Halen album. It could even be Van Hagar, Sammy Hagar Van Halen album, because Eddie enjoyed working with Sammy as well as David Lee. So, yes, belated or posthumous happy birthday to Eddie Van Halen. Somebody still with us is Ellen DeGeneres. 67 years old today. And I looked her up. It turns out she moved to England.
Oh, I didn't know this.
Yeah, and she's still married to Portia de Rossi, who I knew from the old TV show Ally McBeal.
Oh, right.
But she went on and did a bunch of other things too, and they still seem very happy. I know politically some folks have issues with Ellen, but I thought her bravery in coming out, when it did have a massive impact on her career, took her down a few notches. And then, of course, she turned it all around with her talk show and with other things.
Yeah.
And if you look on the internet, which is never wrong, she is worth $500 million. So,
well, good for her. That's great. I remember her when she first came out. She was a stand-up comedian.
Yes.
She was hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of wish that she had still kept up with that and just been a stand-up comedian, but... or had like a sketch comedy or something like that instead of doing a daytime talk show. Yeah. But yeah, there's some funny things in the chat here. Especially I like Robin, who always brings the zingers. He says, I'll take a coconut for president over the current president.
I think I said something like, even before the election, I said I would vote for a pile of dirt before I would vote for Donald Trump.
Pile of dirt?
I can do something even more extreme than that. I would vote for, imagine this, I would vote for Kamala Harris before I would vote Donald Trump. Yes. Let's not even. But yes, thank you for that, Robin. On the Facebook side of things, the author, Jim Ashley, says, and I see Jonathan Honig is in the chat too. Hello, sir. And the man who knows more about money than you'll ever forget, Jim Ashley says the plural of mouse is mice. So the plural of spouse is spice. I don't know about the plural of spouse. I don't know. We could have issues there. Gay marriage is allowed. God, what about plural marriage? Maybe in Utah? Who knows? Who knows? But yes, I don't know if the plural of spouse is spice. I'll keep it singular and find plenty of spice on my own. But that is very funny. Thank you for that. It reminds me of the question, the philosophical question, do infants enjoy infancy as much as adults enjoy adultery?
Right.
There we go.
All right. Yeah.
Yes,
Steven
yes.
says I'll take Donald Duck over Donald Duck Trump. I'll take Rumpelstiltskin over Trumpelstiltskin.
Yes, yeah. The Donald Duck, Scrooge McDuck character, diving into piles of gold coins.
I like Scrooge McDuck.
He was so charming, and he made being wealthy seem like such a nice guy kind of thing. The only problem is the financial aspect of that. Rich people ain't sitting on piles of money.
No.
Their money is invested. It's out there making the wheels of the world turn. People will occasionally say, Elon Musk could take $1 billion and he could give $1,000 to all of 1 billion people out there. Or some other math that doesn't actually work because they don't understand decimals or zeros or anything. But the other problem with that is that Elon Musk doesn't have $1 billion or $1 trillion. His $500 billion is invested in things, and if he took that $500 billion out, all sorts of industries would collapse. And the kind of inflation that you would see because of it would mean that $500 billion that he then gave away wouldn't last very long, and it just doesn't work that way. So yeah, the unfortunate part of Scrooge McDuck is that, and fortunately it is not true, that he would dive into a vault full of gold coins that were just sitting there and not functioning as capital. Now, if you've got some gold set aside, that's always a good idea. In case your investments go south for a while, it can be good to have some hard currency, and I don't mean paper. So, yes. Jim I mentioned Paul, it's Paul Newman's birthday. He says, and you mentioned this before, I saw it when it first came out, but I haven't seen it since. He says, Cool Hand Luke is worth seeing, but my favorite Paul Newman film is The Verdict. It's one of my top 20 favorite movies of all time.
Oh, we'll have to check that out.
I said The Sting is one of my top 15, but yeah, cool. Another movie with Newman that's pretty good is Alfred Hitchcock's Torn Curtain. Well, if it's Alfred Hitchcock, it can't be bad. So yes, thank you. We'll add that to our must-see list. Appreciate that. The last on my list of on this date, it is Dental Drill Appreciation Day. I should have, got a sound clip of a dentist's drill.
I can already hear it in my head, and I'm already cringing.
Yes, and the powdery and the taste and the link.
Hey, let's think of that instead of our president.
Well, that's pretty close. The link that I put in the show notes to Dr. J. Rob's site talks about the history of the dental drill, and you can also look it up on Wikipedia. And it's interesting, actually, because they had dental drills over 1,000 years ago, but it was just ways of rotating a piece of steel, and then eventually they got the kind of kitchen mixer kind of thing, and the best development was the pneumatic one. Kind of like you would pump a sewing machine to get it to run. You could pump the drill to... Big improvement if you're going to do that kind of thing. Nowadays, for light work, and not for the heavy stuff, they still need a drill, but for light stuff, they even use lasers now. And that is becoming
that's
more and more possible to do.
Well, it is better than the alternative. Back in the, olden times, there's actually... So in Greenfield Village, that's in... That's the campus where I work. We actually have a 1760 home, originally from Connecticut, and Sam and Anna Daggett lived there with their family in a Congregationalist community. Anyway, Sam had a lot of different positions in the community, not just a farmer, but he did other things, including dentistry. That's because he inherited a set of tools from his father, I believe. And one of them was like a wrench. That was how they handled that.
Yeah. In the 1700s, you do what you got to do. Jennifer says, hooray for Novocaine. Hell yes. And Paul asked the same question Jim Ashley was asking on Facebook, which is it safe?
What is that from? I'm forgetting.
It's from the film Marathon Man. Dustin Hoffman is being tortured for information by this, kind of Nazi, well, not Nazi, but German dentist who is actually not a dentist. He's torturing people. And anyway, another film I haven't seen since about the time that it came out. And but for some reason, Jim seems to reference that a lot. I guess it's the times we live in is what the problem is. It just seems like an appropriate reference for so many different things. All right, let me jump forward to Hot Topics for the week. I've got a link to our talk, When the Hero and the Villain Are the Same Guy, on Life on Earth. This was an Ayn Rand Center UK show that discussed what do you do. We talked about when your heroes, people you admire, and this doesn't have to be politics, it could be entertainment, it could be sports, it could be all sorts of things. They aren't perfect. They're mixed in their morals, or they're like really amazingly great, but they have a really significant flaw too. What do you do when your hero and the villain are the same guy? I put a link to that in there because I've got friends who really admire our current president. And they have a great ability to go through that list of 50 executive orders so far and find the good ones. And there are good ones. And some of these relate to things which those of us who are pro-capitalist, those of us who are pro-liberty, have been asking for decades. Yes. And I thought I could flip that and say, what do you do when the villain and the hero are the same guy? Or at least the villain is doing things that you wish somebody would do. And I think it's a good discussion to listen to.
I'll just get this out of the way. I listened to Yaron Brook a couple days. Well, it was a couple days ago he did this.
Okay.
It was just a news, his last news show, and he was talking about how Donald Trump has ordered that certain people who don't like him or have spoken out against him. I know there was John Bolton, for instance. He has had, government provided security for himself and his family, dignitaries and politicians who have left office. They get that kind of thing for the rest of their life, basically, especially if they've been receiving death threats like John Bolton has. And so I don't know if this is going to be challenged. I'm sure it will, but there are some people who are good people who are now lacking security for their families and themselves. And so anyway, Yaron Brook talked about that at length, and give him a listen. I thought that was really important to point out because this is really targeted now. I mean, it's like it's very much a punishing your political enemies for political crimes. I mean, just it's pretty nasty business. So anyway. Yeah,
it's one of the rare cases where when you hear stories about political insiders who go to Washington, D.C. and get a job and they're earning standard federal salaries. They could be earning $200,000 or $300,000 a year, but not enough to become a multimillionaire. And then a few years later, you look at their net worth and they are multimillionaires. And it turns out because they're insiders. They know the things that are going to happen. They know the ball that's going to drop. And not always even because of legislation, but just inside information. And the kind of things that insider traders, people accused of inside trading, get sent to jail for. Turns them into millionaires. This is one of the rare occasions where I kind of hope some of these people have got an awful lot of money, because somebody like John Bolton is going to have to provide for his own security if Donald Trump strips away everything that he was receiving because of the kind of threats that he received, having been part of Donald Trump's cabinet. Go figure.
Yeah, I believe it was. John Bolton has been getting active threats, I believe, from Iran for some time. Yeah. Anyway.
So, yes.
Anyway, Dental Drill Appreciation Day, everybody. Okay, everybody, congratulations.
And it got me thinking that, yeah, you know, this administration that we're at the very beginning of is like nothing we've ever seen. And I had to remind myself that the Barack Obama administration was like nothing we had ever seen.
No.
And somehow we survived that. And a big reason why we survived it is not because of what happened in 2008, but what happened in 2010. Because the neat thing about presidential elections is they're not the only elections. 2 years later, this was here in the United States. Folks in Europe, you know all about this because you probably know more about American politics than we do because your schools aren't as far gone as ours are. But either way, 2 years after the presidential election, we have another election. And what we do is we change up a bunch of our Congress critters. And it turns out if a president is bad enough, and he doesn't really have to be that bad, if he's bad enough to turn the tide, in other words, to get the opposition to get off their ass and vote next time, that we can then limit his power. This is what happened way back in, Bill Clinton in 1992 takes over the presidency and gets Hillary Clinton to start working on Hillary Care. Oh, you thought Obamacare was our first shot at socialized medicine? No. And Bill Clinton tries to do a bunch of other things that he had promised to his left-wing supporters. But it was all too much. It was all too far. And in 1994, a bunch of Republicans get elected to Congress. Newt Gingrich takes over. And the 1990s turn out to be the fiscally best decade we had seen in ages. The last time we ever had a balanced budget. In other words, the government brought in more money than it spent. Yeah, that's like a fantasy these days. Hell, the last time Donald Trump was president, he overspent, well, not him, the government overspent $8 trillion more than it brought in. How is that even possible? I mean, and you could shave off a couple trillion for COVID if you want. I don't know if that's really realistic, but okay, $6 trillion. This is the guy that's going to empty the swamp? Well, of course, he's got his second shot this time, but the point is we survived Obama for the same reason. He tried to do much more than he got away with, and eventually he stopped trying. He got the PPACA, the Patient Protection and Affordable Care Act, in other words, Obamacare. He got that, much more muted than he wanted. He wanted full single-payer socialized medicine. What is our current president going to get? He's going to get a lot. He's going to get some things that he should not get. But there will be breaks on that as well. And the point I want to make for each and every one of you, or at least for myself, is we will get through this. We will not be destroyed. But more than that, even if we're not going to get through it, what are you going to do? What are you going to do even if somehow this current administration breaks the government? You've got Ogles out there, House of Representatives guy, I forget his first name. Ogles is enough of a name.
Yeah.
Trying to pass an amendment to end the term limits of the president. That didn't take long. I mean, Donald Trump was installed in the White House, 9 days ago? 6 days? 7 days ago? What is the date? I just said the date. It's the 26th, so 6 days ago. Less than a week. And this clown Ogles is already trying... Andy Ogles introduced proposal to amend the presidential...
amending the 22nd Amendment.
Yeah. Amend the amendment. Remember I said that when Prohibition passed, they passed an amendment to prohibit alcohol, and then they had to pass another amendment to amend the amendment. Well, that's what he wants to do. He wants to amend the amendment that said after FDR served as president for 4 terms, that it was limited to 2 terms from here on out. And people are already saying, well, even if he doesn't get it, well, what'll happen is J.D. Vance will run for president with Donald Trump as his vice president, because he won't be then going for... And then Vance will simply step aside and make Donald Trump the president. Or a little less conspiratorially, but not much. He'll stay president, Vance will, but, let Donald Trump really, and everyone will know that Donald Trump is really the one making the decisions. In other words, conspiracies are not exclusively a domain of the right wing. No, nowadays they're so normal. Everybody's got a conspiracy. You get a conspiracy, and you get a conspiracy, and you win a conspiracy. And I'm here to tell you, ain't going to happen. But even if it does, even if some crazy thing happens, what are you going to do then? And I was kind of, it was a toss-up for me between bring it on and this too shall pass. In case anybody's wondering why the name of this episode is Bring This To On. Do it! Bring it on to, and it will pass. The point is, I say it awkwardly, intentionally, to kind of get it stuck in your craw and mine too, because it is true. There's an old bit of wisdom for old people and for young people too. If you ever want to get involved in a long-term project, some people say, well, I'm too old to go back to college. I always wanted to get a bachelor's or a master's or a PhD, whatever it was. I always wanted to go to college, but, I'm just too old. I can't spend 4 years in college and, graduate when I'm 65 or 75 or whatever it is. And the bit of wisdom is this. The time will pass either way. So 4 years from now, it will be 4 years from now. Do the thing.
What thing?
Whatever the thing is. And I've got a prediction. Here's my prediction for you.
Okay.
And I want you to hold me to this. And if I turn out to be wrong, you let me know I was wrong. Thank you for holding me. Here's the prediction. In 4 years, it will be 2029.
Wow.
I know, right? In 4 years, the second term of Donald Trump, The Apprentice White House Edition, Season 2.
Troublestilskin.
That will be over. Now, I know, I get it. It's 2025 right now. And you're like, yeah, but he's going to do a bunch of crap. He's going to ruin the country. He's going to destroy rule of law. He's going to destroy the Republican, well, he's already destroyed the Republican Party. The only viable option there was against the Democrats. That's true. But in 4 years, it will be January 26, 2029. We will have a different president, left or right, whatever. We will have gotten through whatever mess Donald Trump made and whatever mess the left made in response to Donald Trump and whatever mess is left of the Republican Party, if they don't just change the name of it and call themselves the Party of Trump. We will get through it. This too shall pass. So bring it on. You have no option. And that's my bottom line for tonight. You have no option about that. What's coming will come, and we will face it when it does. How are you going to face it? Oh, wait, shoot. There's an area where all of the options are yours. There's an area where it's all up to you. Wow. Yeah, it might be great or it might be horrible. I'll let you in on a secret. It's going to be a little bit of both. But no matter how good it is or how bad it is, nobody can tell you what you're going to do about it. Nobody can even tell you what attitude you're going to take about it. It's that whole free will thing. The fact that you can turn your focus on and off. And by turning it on and off at the right time, you can choose what to focus on. And by choosing what to focus on, you can choose your demeanor, your state, your overall emotional totality. You get to choose you. Well, that is power. That's the stuff. I've got a link in the show notes to Angela Duckworth's talk on grit, which she defines as passion and perseverance. How's that pop filter doing? Passion and perseverance. That is what I am determined to live over the next 4 years. And I will be a total victim. I will be a swish. I will be a useless punk if I will let somebody of the stature of Donald Trump stop me from living with passion, stop me from exercising perseverance, ruin my grit. No, you are better than that. I am better than that. We are better than that. But on top of that, because I'm looking in the chat and I am seeing just all objectivists, all fans of Ayn Rand, all people who take this philosophy seriously. We have got the power. We have got the owner's manual for life. We've got the fountainhead in one hand, Atlas Shrugged in the other. Or those two in one hand and a copy of Opar in the other. We've got the owner's manual to life. Okay, I'm not going to be a Pollyanna. Actually, Pollyanna didn't actually, if you read the book, Pollyanna didn't do this, but I'll use it as a metaphor. I'm not going to be a Pollyanna and say, everything's going to be all right. It's very possible some things are not going to be all right. That's why I say, even if it's a total cluster of bad things, what you going to do? What will you choose? What will you choose your response to be? Now, emotions are not tools of cognition. They are automatic integrations of values. So you don't get to directly choose your emotions. You're going to feel some grief. You're going to feel some anger. You're going to feel some sadness if things happen that warrant those reactions. But even there, you can choose your emotions by choosing what you focus on, what you give your time and attention to, where your money goes. And in this case, I don't literally mean money. I mean your time, your attention, your resources, and yeah, on the list, your money. Well, I think you've got it. You've got this. You can do this. I know you can do this. You have free will. And you are armed with some of the best ideas that have ever been expressed anywhere. But if you're like, yeah, but sometimes it's so bad it overwhelms all of that, then sign up for Kirk's sessions on the Romantic Manifesto. Leverage art. But not just art. Leverage sports. Okay, if you haven't seen Tara Smith's talk, Sport as an Arena for Admiration. Oh, I'm not really into sports, but that's okay. No, you don't have to. I'm not into sports. People who know me, I'm not a sports guy. I'm a fair weather sports fan. I'll watch the Super Bowl if the Lions are in it. I'll watch, the World Series if the Tigers. I'm not a sports guy. You've got to watch this lecture if you haven't already. Sport as an Arena for Admiration. Because sport can be a metaphor. You listen to this lecture and you start looking for success in the news because you find people you can admire the way that you can admire athletes, and you find them in business, and you find them in arts and entertainment. You see this in entrepreneurs. Listen to some of the interviews that Gina Gorland's doing, or anybody in that space, in that area. So much to admire, so much to be inspired by, so much to look at when you're tired of looking at social media posts about Donald Trump, or the idiots on the left who are fighting Donald Trump. Pick your poison. Or better yet, how about we don't pick poison? None of the above. Oh, does that mean nothing? Don't do anything? No, it means do all of the other things. And yeah, stay aware of the news. And fight when you can actually do something. But complaining isn't fighting, and getting depressed and is not fighting. And, if things are sad, be sad about them. And I'm not saying to evade anything, of course. But how much attention does a news story deserve when there's nothing you can do about it? And especially when it doesn't actually affect you in any way directly. Stay aware, stay, on it. But how much? Amy, it looks like you're looking at something very inspiring.
Yeah. Well, first of all, before I get on this, here is so there's going to be, so we do have a lot of objectivist friends. Actually, before I say anything, forget about Trump for a second. I just wanted to, Matthew, if you're listening, I just wanted to send you a big, big hug. Here it is. You're a big, big hug. Yeah, I just want to say, Matthew, you get a big, big hug. And there you go. All right.
All our best to you.
So Blake Scholl, who's been in objectivist circles and is a big Ayn Rand fan, he is, I think, the CEO of Boom Supersonic. And tomorrow, it says 1 day, 15 hours, and 6 minutes, and 53 seconds. There's a countdown on their website. The XB-1 will have its first historic supersonic test flight. And now I'm not entirely sure what the XB-1 is. Yeah, it's a supersonic
the
airplane.
XB-1, yeah. It's their test airplane. They're actually doing test flights, and if you look at the airplane, you'll see it's a private craft or private-sized craft. It's not the full airliner that they're working on producing. No, they're starting with the small airplane that's using the principles they're going to use.
Yes.
But the XB-1 is up there.
Yeah. So tomorrow, or in one, actually maybe not tomorrow, but the next day, I think after that. They're going to have that.
Oh, so, they're taking it to Mach 1. So they are taking it to the speed of sound?
Yes.
Oh, they're going to live stream it?
Yes.
How awesome.
1 day and 15 hours.
1 day and 15 hours?
Yeah.
So Tuesday morning?
Yeah. Pretty cool.
That is awesome.
It's awesome.
Now this is some guy. Okay, Blake Scholl's not just some guy, but he's, an objectivist who said, we should have supersonic aircraft. There are reasons why the Concorde kind of fell apart at the end. In a couple of cases, literally, and that was the problem.
Yeah.
But Blake Scholl says, no, we need supersonic aircraft. You should be able to get from New York to London in a few hours.
So always consider this, and when we're talking about all these dreary things that put political actions that might actually affect our lives and the lives of our loved ones, the lives of our friends. I always think of Ayn Rand's just the one sentence. Do not lose your knowledge that our proper estate is an upright posture, an intransigent mind, and a step that travels unlimited roads. Don't forget that your upright, that your proper estate is an upright posture. And don't forget the fact that a lot of people in a lot of situations where they're facing adversity will remember that as well. They may not have the words for it. They may never have heard of Ayn Rand before. But there are a lot of good things out there. I've seen, when women's reproductive rights were being challenged, when Roe versus Wade was turned over, there were a lot of people state by state, getting together, coming up with plans, figuring out ways to help people, to help women, get what they need to get done, and that's still ongoing and everything, but that battle has pretty much been won by the right side. I think in case of the immigration situations, I think the courts are going to be a really excellent obstacle to any of this, any of the bad stuff that Trump is going to be doing or planning on doing. And even on the ground level, there are articles out there about how to look after the people who are your friends, who are immigrants. So I'm going to be looking into that. I'm going to be looking into ways that I can help the situation. If we have people who are immigrants or the sons or daughters of immigrants, maybe who were not born in the United States, whatever it may be, just think about those people around you and those people who you value, and think about how you might be able to help them. Yeah, so that's all I can say with that. And I think that there's going to be a groundswell of a lot of people who are coming up with excellent ideas to circumvent a lot of these horrible things that might be happening. So just keep that in mind. Your proper estate is an upright posture, and so is the estate of all those people around you.
Yes, absolutely. Sorry, I'm giggling about a few of the things in the chat.
Yes.
For example, Jeff Bannister came in late, so he's catching up at 1.5 speed. He says we sound funny that way. At least on YouTube they pitch correct it. So even though you talk very, very fast, it's okay. It kind of breaks up, and you can hear little bits that are, but it doesn't make you sound really high. So that at least you have that.
That's a good thing.
At least you have. Jason Adams says, "Well, I paused and left season 11, episode 1, Penn and Teller's 50th special, Fool Us, on a commercial to come over here." He points out that's free on CWTV. Very fun and positive show. I get to savor it by waiting. Well, thank you for that. And yeah, we were fortunate to meet Penn Jillette after seeing Penn and Teller live in Las Vegas. Nicest guy you want to meet. And some of you know, of course, that he's an Ayn Rand fan. Teller is, in fact, an objectivist. I don't know if
he's
Penn
more
Jillette
of
regards himself as an objectivist, but he's an Ayn Rand fan.
Yeah, I would say that Teller is mainly kind of more libertarianish or political leaning.
Yeah.
But
I'm not going to judge his objectivist bona fides, but I don't think he calls himself an objectivist. I don't know, maybe he does. Well, in any event, a lot of people call themselves objectivists. I just know Penn Jillette is amazing. He's an amazing guy. He's got an amazing character.
Yes.
He's just a good guy.
And he saved his own life. He was about 1 foot into the grave, and he turned his health around.
That's true.
And I very much admire that.
He reached that point where he said, "I've got to lose 120 pounds," and he did it. It's crazy, but awesome. And yeah, certainly anybody in that position, if they can get themselves to follow that. Jason also said, "I got to liking a bit of football, eating so many wings, and waiting for karaoke all my life." See, more people should karaoke, although you're right, sometimes you have to wait for it. Listening to other people, which is cool, while you're waiting for your chance to go up, and you end up eating the wings. So there you go. But mostly what they call the post-season. I was like Pavlov. That's funny. I was like Pavlov's dog when I taste the buffalo sauce. So there you go. Although I don't know which comes first, the eating buffalo wings or watching the game. And Apollo Zeus says, Robert thought a swear word. I was almost going to go on a roll because it's hard to talk about our current president, our current coconut. It's hard to talk about The Apprentice White House Edition Season 2 without using a lot of swear words. And it's not my fault. Because, if you've listened to interviews, I know Barry Weiss ran one of them, for example, but this has been on more than one show. Somebody out there has got this idea, well, Donald Trump doesn't lie. No. What he does is I'll say BS's. And that's different from lying. And this guy goes on and on and on at length about what the difference is between BS and actual lies.
What's his name? Peter Keating.
Might as well have been. And some people judge me for judging the president for being... See, the word jerk doesn't really cut it. You've got to use a swear word. A swear word that begins with A and has S in the middle and hole at the end. And there's no other word to describe this guy.
Well, I don't know. I prefer the word Trumpelstiltskin.
Well, but that's too cute and made up.
I know.
And you're a woman, so you can do that. But in my case, if I said that, my cojones would fall off and I would immediately be effeminate.
You'd go, like you're Ron Brooke, you'd go grocery shopping.
I'd go grocery shopping, and so I wouldn't be a man anymore.
What was the other thing? I forget.
Well, it was grocery. And if you go grocery shopping with your wife...
and you drink tea.
Oh, if you drink tea, you're not a man. So,
Anyway.
I'm usually coffee, but I drink tea. I dig tea. Black with a little honey. Oh,
Yeah,
well.
Greg says, you pour the lime in the coconut. Yes. Robin says he tells colorful truths.
I don't know where Jim's coming from, but he says, I guess I picked poison when I was 5 years old. I was talking about pick your poison. I was a Clorox drinker, but just that one time, I swear. When we were kids, we did not bad, we made bad mistakes. And but although it makes me think of Airplane. Looks like I picked the wrong week to quit sniffing glue.
Right.
Escalates through the film there. Yes.
I mean, it's better than Tide Pods, drinking Clorox, I guess.
Yes. You pour the lime in the coconut.
Yeah, I just said that.
I didn't hear that.
Yeah,
Jim Greg is bringing Nielsen in. Okay.
Yes.
Coconut is a great song. It's one of those songs, if you're a rock and roller and you're like, how many songs only have one chord? And that's one of those songs that only has one chord.
Oh, yeah. Great song.
Although my favorite Nielsen is the soundtrack to The Point.
Yes, The Point with Harry Nilsson.
This is the town and these are the people.
Anything just about anything that Harry Nilsson sung.
When I went to look up persistence, it came up as a page on the Ayn Rand Institute website. And it's kind of a plain page. It just says persistence at the top. It's got a reference to Tara Smith's Sport is an Arena for Admiration. And other than that, it's a blank page. I think maybe they're developing some new thing here. But it got me thinking of Burton Braley, who we mentioned when we talked about grit last time. Burton Braley, the poet. And so I think I'm going to, unless we have more to say, and you may see something in the chat, but I'm going to wrap up with this. Burton Braley's poem, Success. And I want you to think about this not just in terms of your own personal success, your own goals, not just in terms of your grit, in other words, your passion and persistence, but think about this over the next 4 years, if you're in the States, or over the next however many years, if you're in Europe. Burton Braley, he wrote stuff like this all the time. Success. If you want a thing bad enough to go out and fight for it, work day and night for it, give up your time and your peace and your sleep for it, if only desire of it makes you quite mad enough to never tire of it, makes you hold all other things tawdry and cheap for it, if life seems empty and useless without it, and all that you scheme and you dream is about it, if gladly you'll sweat for it, fret for it, plan for it, lose all your terror of God or man for it, if you'll simply go after that thing that you want with all your capacity, strength and sagacity, faith, hope and confidence, stern pertinacity, if neither cold poverty, famished and gaunt, nor sickness nor pain of body or brain can turn you away from that thing that you want, if dogged and grim you besiege and beset it, you'll get it. Burton Braley on persistence, on success. This is the attitude.
Yeah, I know that perspective a lot. I did that. I did actually. Last year in my work, I was lucky enough to understand and know that, and I was very persistent and very proud of what I did.
Yes.
So yeah, I mean, think about the things that make you proud of yourself. Give yourself the words to praise yourself, and know that, as you know, as an objectivist myself, and perhaps many of you in the audience, you know what? Read the Romantic Manifesto. I dare you. I triple dog dare you.
Ooh, now you've got to do it.
So,
or you're not a man. You're a tea drinker.
terrible. So there's the first chapter, the psychoepistemology of art. Scary words, I know. But there's some gems in here that are just integrations that Ayn Rand kept just integrating this and integrating that and putting things together and defining things and coming up with formulations that were just wicked brilliant. So this is one of the things I really liked is from this chapter. One of the grimmest monuments to altruism is man's culturally induced selflessness. And again, people who don't know, in this case, Ayn Rand's idea of selfishness means doing good for you as a cognitive, volitional, conceptual human being, of living in a way that not only do you survive, but you flourish and you gain values in your life and you really enjoy your life. In a way that does not discard other people, but actually brings people into your life who are of value to you and who share your values with you. And so, selflessness. In terms of altruism, it's his willingness to live with himself as with the unknown, to ignore, evade, repress the personal, in other words, the non-social, the personal needs of his soul, to know least about the things that matter most, and thus to consign his deepest values to the impotent underground of subjectivity, and his life to the dreary wasteland of chronic guilt. Oftentimes, and unquote, oftentimes that guilt coming from the fact that you are not respecting yourself, that you don't have a good relationship with yourself. You don't know what your consciousness, what it needs to function properly. And yeah, so it's just...
So don't do that.
Don't do that.
But do read this first chapter. Well, read the whole book, but read the first chapter of the Romantic Manifesto. You don't need to wait for the book to come in. I know you're ordering one copy. Now you've already got a copy on the shelf, but the first chapter is online as well. You can read that for free.
Yeah, and she goes into the meaning of art, the application of art, why human beings need art, But this whole idea of, what is your relationship to yourself, or as Ayn Rand would often put it when she asked friends, how is your universe? How is your universe? How are you relating to the world? How are you relating to yourself? How are you relating to your own thought processes? How are you relating to, do you introspect? Do you ask yourself questions? Do you know yourself? That's basically it. So when we say selfishness, that means that you're respecting yourself in all of the different ways.
Yes.
So yeah, it's so. But that just that one paragraph, I'm like, oh my gosh, this covers so much in just one little paragraph. It was so good. Great book.
So always remember this. To bring it on.
Wait.
I really can't decide.
Bring this to on.
Bring this to on. I really can't decide between bring it on and this too shall pass. I've said before, when I donate blood, I always remember that phrase. When the needle's about, I hate needles. I hate donating blood. But I also love donating blood. So I always remember that expression. Just bring it on. Just do it. Bring it on. Whatever it is. Gimme. But I also like the expression, this too shall pass. In fact, my Post-it note for the week, I've gotten out of the habit, but I like to put up a Post-it note every week, someplace where I will see it throughout the week, to remind myself of things I already know, or new things that I've learned. And my Post-it note for the week just says, the time will pass either way. Do the thing. Pick up that long-term project. If you're not sure it's worth investing 4 weeks or 4 months or 4 years in, the time will pass either way. It's going to be January 26th, 2029, in 4 years. Whatever you do between now and then, that time is going to pass, and we will find ourselves at that moment in time. And what will you want to have done with these next 4 years? Where do you want to find yourself? I'm perfectly willing to look back and say, yeah, well, I fought a lot of what Donald Trump tried to do and a lot of what his cohort tried to do over the last 4 years. And I'm proud of the work that I did. I'm proud of speaking out. Heck, I don't even know what all that work's going to look like. But I will be especially proud of what I did despite all of that. And that's what I want for you. Folks, thank you for joining us. This has been another episode of 5 Minutes with Robert and Amy Nasir. And you. Thank you for joining us in the chat. I may have missed a few things, but, did I miss something?
No, I just want to say, yes, Greg, long live half-assery.
Long live half-assery. You know, I don't really like the expression, the perfect is the enemy of the good, but it does make a point. If you are spending all of your time in analysis paralysis, all of your time planning, waiting until the perfect moment or until you've got the perfect plan or just the right opportunity, just get out there and do.
Yeah. Prove to yourself that you can do it with one half of your ass.
Yeah.
Get it done. And don't let, people or things or creatures, political creatures, distract you from what you really, really want.
You know, whatever they're going to do, just bring this on. Folks, thanks for joining us. If you have ideas for the next episode or any of the ones after that, 5 Minutes with Robert and Amy Nasir, you know what to do. Put them in the chat or in the Facebook group, 5 Minutes with Robert and Amy Nasir on Facebook, or connect with us in any of the ways you choose to on all the socials. We're on there in our real names. Nobody's stolen our identity yet. Go figure. We've just been lucky, and it's blind faith, I'm sure, is what's animating us. Special thanks to those of you who continue to support the work we do at patreon.com/Robert Nasir. Link to that at robertnasir.com. Thank you. You make it all worth it. You're paying the bills. You're keeping the lights on. You're making all of this fancy electronic equipment that makes this show possible work. I shared some of that on the socials this week. So thank you for that. If you'd like to join them, patreon.com/Robert Nasir. $2 a month, $5 a month. If I was Yaron, I would say, $500 a month would be even better. Whatever it is, it's all good. Just if you want to buy us a cup of coffee, that would be super sweet. And you are super sweet, the best audience in podcasting. And that is why at the end of the show, I'm going to do it again. I'm going to wish you every success that you so richly deserve, you awesome people. You really deserve it all. And that's also why we are vibing. What is this new word? What is vibing anyway? No, we're not vibing. We are sending you love.